Hello and welcome to lesson 78 of the Learning Guitar series. In this particular lesson, we're going to look at triadic inversions. In this case, we're going to start looking at the string groups. So how can we divide the guitar in group of strings and, playing triads and their inversions. In lesson 77, we looked at the theory behind it and the concept of a rental form, and now we move, from augmented triads to major triads to minor triads, and then off diminished triads. In this case, as you will see on the PDF, we're going to start looking at proper applications of it, so that we can make music and use it, practically in our playing. Let's have a quick look at the PDF so we see what we're dealing with. So here is the PDF that comes from this lesson, and is 17 pages long, mainly diagrams of exercises, nothing to be worried about. I mean, I'll explain them to you in a second. So the following exercises are designed as a basic vehicle for practicing triadic inversions in a musical manner. I've chosen a progression that goes E, G, B, and it can be E major, G major, B major, or minor, or augmented, or off diminished. And that's only because that kind of progression allows us to work through the inversions within a few frets on the guitar neck, so that we can also implement and get used to the idea of voice leading as we move through chords. What that means, I'm going to show you like the first page here. We have string group 1, 2, and 3, and that means like the I, E string, and the B string, and the G string. And these are basically E and the inversions of it on the neck of the guitar. Here is the second inversion because it starts with the fifth, root position, and first inversion because it starts with the third. But the way you're exercising is actually vertically. When, already the last lesson I told you like maybe to practice this horizontally, so that first of all you get used to the triads and the inversions as chord. But in this case, we're practicing a progression that goes E, G, B, because this allows us to practice all three positions. As you can see, this, and then this shape is the same as this, and this shape is the same as this. But in this case, we're kind of using closed voicing. And as you can see in a progression like E, G, B, we're not only practicing the three shapes that we can encounter in terms of playing triadic chords, but also it's like within 4 frets we're resolving the entire progression. Same thing if we approach it, say, from around fret 7. Same thing if we approach it from around fret 12. In other words, as we're practicing, this triads, we can do it in 2 different ways, horizontally and vertically. Horizontally means, okay, I'm going to practice, say, E and its inversions. So I'm literally going, in this case, but vertically, in this case, we're applying it to this progression, which is E, G, and B. And in this case, I have E, G, B. And you can see how, even if I'm changing chords, there is some degree of voice leading, because, say, for example, this note is in common to all 3 chords. And all the rest of the notes, they move very closely, as opposed to me playing E, G, B. Okay, and if I play like with little kind of looped bass line behind, you will hear it even better how nicely it moves. G, B, E, G, B. And if I move in this area, now I have E, G, B. And if I move in this area, E, G, B. So basically the way I want you to approach this PDF is you're basically looking, say in this case, string group 1, 2, and 3. Here is the major triad. Then in the following page you would have same string group, but in this case everything is going to be minor. Okay, so I'm going to give you an example of just this. So like E minor, G minor, B minor, and the lower part of the fret. So you have E minor, G minor, B minor, and again. Sounds nice. And same thing again, if we can continue, now you have the diminished version, again, string group 1, 2, and 3, and obviously the augmented string group 1, 2, and 3. And as I said, you can take, each vertical exercise and then just practice it. With regard to this lesson, now we're looking also at other string groups. So now is the equivalent, again, EGB, string group 2, 3, and 4 in this case, major, 2, 3, and 4 minor, 2, 3, and 4 diminished, 2, 3, and 4 augmented. And this is probably one of the most used string groups when it comes to use it, chords based on triadic inversions. For example, in this case, you would have E up here, G, B. And again, this is the kind of stuff that, for example, when you listen to music, you hear. Because obviously, when it comes to, string group 2, 3, and 4, and 3, 4, and 5, because they are, lower in register, and it's more about harmony. You can really spell chords without having to play the big chords. And as I said, by doing these kind of studies, you're also creating voice leading. It's kind of closer to how a piano player would approach it. In the case of, say, with the loop, it's kind of sound like this. And as I said, basically the PDF, then you have string group 2, 3, and 4 major, 2, 3, and 4 minor, diminished, augmented. And you can see where this is going. Now you have group 3, 4, and 5. So G string, D string, A string, same progression, major, minor, diminished, and augmented. And of course, string group 4, 5, and 6. So now we are basically at the lower part of the guitar. And that's the kind of voicings that really works well, say, for riffs, and even if you have like a slight drive on it, because you have these kind of sounds now. So like, again, this is E, G, and B, all major. E, G, B. And as you can see, it's very interesting kind of sounds. It's different compared to, generally the beginner guitar player is going to use power chords for this, and it's going to sound, I don't know, E, G, B. And again, nothing wrong with that, but to me, this sounds nicer. Different things. So like, studying this kind of language, triadic inversions, add an extra thing to your vocabulary. Nothing wrong with this, but now you have two options. Let's keep looking at the PF. Once you understand the logic behind these exercises, bear in mind that it can be applied to any chord progression, and I encourage you to do so. Also encourage you to transpose these exercises in all other keys in order to develop photographic memory. So what that means, obviously, like in this case, as I said, I'm using, for the PDF, I'm using E, B, and G E, G, and B as a progression, because it allows us to, to kind of practice all the shapes. Nothing says that I cannot do, say, E major, but then G minor, and then, I don't know, B major. So you have this kind of sound. E major, G minor, and then B major. I can mix and match. You can use diminished, you can use augmented. Also, I'm suggesting you take any chord progressions once you're familiar with, how this works. Any song that that you fancy looking how you can comp just using triads and closed voicings. Why not? It can be literally anything, U2 with or without, I don't know, whatever. It really doesn't matter. So start from these exercises, but then branch out, apply it to your own music, the way you voice chords when it comes to your own music. So each page we contain 3 guitar necks detailing each chord and its inversion. This we already showed you in the video. And we're going to go through several groups of strings, and as you will notice, some adapt better to certain styles of music than others. For example, group 1, 2, 3, funk, 2, 3, 4, rock pop, 3, 4, 6, 3, 4, 5, I guess, so 3, 4, 6, solo guitar. So what that means is, again, this is not a rule written in stone, but it's very common, for example, to use string group 1, 2, 3 when you're playing funk rhythm guitar. That's a very common thing. So again, let's use the EGB progression. It's not uncommon. Absolutely not uncommon. The same way is not uncommon, as I showed you, to use maybe like string group 2, 3, 4 for more rockier type of stuff, So last but not least, here the sequence EBG is approached all major, all minor, all diminished, all augmented in terms of chords, but feel free to mix and match the quality of the chords. Example, E minor, G augmented, B major, once you're familiar with the material. And that's kind of obvious. Plus, don't forget that when you're approaching major triads, you're actually covering not only major chords, but also dominant 7 chords, because major chords are 1, 3, 5. And as we know, when we extend the triads, we have the major 7, but also dominant chords are 1, 3, 5. The only difference is that when we extend them, then we have a dominant 7. So in the case of major triads, if we want to think in terms of modes, so you have a little bit of harmony and theory for you. Major triads are covering not only the Ionian mode and the Lydian mode, but also the Mixolydian mode. Minor triads are covering Dorian, Phrygian, and Aeolian, and diminished triads are covering Locrian. So already, with these studies in terms of playing chords using triadic and triadic inversions, you're kind of covering all the major modes. So if you wanted to have some fun in a way and kind of record maybe like I did, a bass line and then a chord, and then you want to solo on top of it. Let's say, for example, let's take all majors, so it's kind of easier for you to relate to. We're going to go E major triad, then G major triad, and then B major triad. And I'm going to record the chords. In terms of wanting to play lead lines on top of that, all those chords can be thought of as Ionian, so I can use major Ionian scales, but also Lydian, each of them, and also Mixolydian, so like dominant. I'll actually play it to you so you hear it. That's B, followed as B major, right? Now it's B Mixolydian. E Ionian, G Ionian, B Mixolydian, E Ionian. That was also G Ionian. Let's try E7, B7, sorry, G7, B7. So now everything is Mixolydian, right? That was Ionian, Mixolydian. Let's do Ionian, then G Mixolydian, then back to B Ionian. I hope it makes sense. This is a little bit more, advanced as thinking, but we're doing these studies way after we've already done modes. So hopefully by now you have a very good understanding of modes. So in this case, because they're major triads, can be applied to Ionian scales, can be applied to Lydian scales. Each chord, I can think of it as either Ionian or Lydian or Mixolydian, and of course it will bring these different intervals into play. When it comes to minor, every minor triad can be thought of as Dorian, can be thought as Phrygian, can be thought as Aeolian, and of course when it comes to scales there are differences, right? So you get different vibes out of it. I hope it makes sense, and I hope this entire lesson makes sense. Nevertheless, it's like a practice. Study the PDF. And next lesson, we're going to look at the remaining string groups, and then we're going to move on to a different topic. Thank you very much for listening, and see you next time.